Hey folks, thanks for joining in the fun. We're just a couple minutes away from starting. Amy is coming into the room at the same time that you guys all are. And as soon as I see her, I will suck her up into the presentation panel. We are so lucky to have a rock star joining us very shortly, Amy Holloway. She's written this new book, Trust Builders. It just came out. And yesterday I found out it's at the top of the Amazon list in several categories, including public policy. So you are getting a first time #1 on Amazon author joining us today. We're super, super lucky. So thanks for your patience. I know Amy will be here shortly. And we're really looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for sharing some of your Friday with us. You gotta hydrate. Hey, Amy, I'm gonna pull you into the big stream here. Amy, you might have to click on some sort of permission. I'm getting the message that says waiting for Amy to join the panel. Boop, 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 boop. Jake Murphy, I don't know if you're referring to water is so good or Amy Holloway is so awesome. Both are true. Both are true. I think we're breaking Amy into the world of Substack Live. So as with all things, there's a learning curve. Beautiful day today here on the shores of Lake Monona in Ho-Chunk country in Madison, Wisconsin. You know how some people, the first sign of spring is like, what is it? It's like seeing a robin. Seeing a robin is the first sign of spring. The first sign of spring here on Lake Monona is when the big barges come out on the lake and they start moving people's piers into position. I mean, a robin is a first sign of spring as well. But to me, when I saw that today, I was like, oh, spring is super, super really here. All right, so we seem to be having just a tiny technical difficulty here. So I am going to, Amy, if you can hear me, I'm going to cancel the invitation. I'm going to re-ask you to join and see if that works. There she is. Girl, you look great. I love that shirt.
Thanks. It's little late.
Cha-chaing ladies. Oh my God. Fantastic.
Just for you, Rebecca.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, we're about 2 minutes out. I was sharing with everybody signs of spring. Also, my God, the need to hydrate. I feel so dry these days. So I've got my big glug here.
Me too. Yeah.
What's spring in Asheville? Are you in Asheville today or are you in Charleston?
I'm in Charleston. Yep. I come down here to write on occasion, and I'm back in the Airbnb I stayed in to write the book. So I'm feeling a little nostalgic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you finish the book there in Charleston or started or work on the middle or was it many times?
Yeah.
Like, how was that?
Yeah, I came down here in October for 2 weeks and I just wrote. And like I wrote in the morning, I wrote in the afternoon, I wrote at night. I needed to get away from Asheville and from home to really focus on it. You know how that goes.
I do. I totally get it. All right. Well, I was raised by German Lutherans. We run like a train system. So we are going to get started in 1 minute. Amy, I want to make sure you've got your book close by.
I do. It's right here. It never leaves my side.
Ooh, hard copy.
Yes, you guys, there's a hard copy available now on Amazon. It's really pretty.
Wow. That is really nice. Although I have to say, it's so much easier to get a flat spine on the soft cover. Anyway,
I agree.
Book nerds unite. Okay, we're going to get started. People are going to join kind of as we go. And I just want you guys to know that there is an opportunity for audience questions. I know Amy's book just came out a month ago, so many of you may not have it yet. But as I mentioned, it already hit #1 on Amazon. Get in line, y'all. Get a copy of this book softcover or hardcover, breaking news. Amy will be reading from her book. Sorry, man, I've got like a mosquito bite or some noise on my ankle that's just driving me nuts. I'm here.
Rebecca.
Welcome to Wisconsin.
Let's just get real here. I've got a mosquito bite on my ankle.
Yeah, and I'm standing up, so I got a long way to reach down to get it. Okay. I want to welcome all of our guests today. This is a very special Futures Friday. Amy and I have darn near the same birthday. Yep. We started our businesses at just about the same time. Her business that she started was Avalanche Consulting with her husband, who I think is on the call today. And she had a buyout to Ernst & Young. She sold Avalanche Consulting to EY and then went on to lead their practice in economic development. And I have been, like, from afar for a long time, a humongous fan of Amy and her team at Avalanche. And then when she decided she was going to write a book, I was shocked that this was the topic that she picked, but we're going to get into it. This feels like a big unlock. So as we get started, for those people who don't know you maybe as well as others, the question, Amy, is who are you? And I just want to do a quick preface. So last year I listened to Viola Davis's memoir, which is called Finding Me. And the very first anecdote she wrote about was how she was on movie set with Will Smith. And Will said, "Viola, who are you really?" And he went on to explain, like, I'm always going to be this teenager who got dumped by his girlfriend. Like, that's just part of who I am. So, Amy, we can read your CV, but, like, who are you really?
Oh, Rebecca, this question, like, why do you have to start? This question has just gotten me in knots, I have to say. No, in a good way, It's really fun to think about, like, who I really am. And I have to say, first and foremost, I really value authenticity. I think it's part of the reason that you and I really like each other, because I like to keep it real. And I think it's always been kind of what you see is what you get. I work really hard. I've been a consultant for 30 years. I've worked as a strategist for like 200 plus places. So professionally, that's who I am. And yeah, I led a firm, Avalanche, and I sold it to EY and I led their practice. And then about a year and a half ago, I decided I wanted to go back out on my own. And part of it was to write this book. But if you're like taking the spirit of Will Smith and like, I'm a 15-year-old boy who was just broken up with by his girlfriend, which is funny. I kind of went back to the high school days too, Rebecca. I know you were involved with sports, but I have to admit, I was a total band nerd. Like,
okay,
I played the clarinet. I was competitive in clarinet. Like I was like first chair in the state in E flat clarinet. Like I was really into it. And I was also kind of like, if anyone is on the line from Clear Lake High School band, please laugh at this and don't get your feelings hurt. But I was kind of like the queen of the nerds. So I got elevated to band president my senior year. And, I led this group. It was like 250 people in band. It was a huge school, a huge band.
Wow.
And I think like in my heart of hearts, I'm still that band president, like trying to rally people, trying to just give them as much support as I can, show them how awesome they are, even if they're really awkward, or just show them how their talents are really valuable and how kind of great they are. And I feel like I've just kind of taken that spirit with me throughout my career is kind of a band leader. That's kind of silly, but
I know it's so authentic. First of all, I didn't even know there was such a thing as E flat clarinet. So I am getting
it's like a piccolo.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting super schooled on this right now. I love knowing that you're a band president. I always say, because I was a big nerd in school too, nerds do end up taking over the world.
Kind of.
I mean, sort of in some ways. Present leadership excluded, possibly. But so nerd alert. So
nerd alert.
Oh, we're gonna get back to being the band president, I think, in just a second, because some of that comes through in this book, Trust Builders. But just walk me through this. 30 years of your career doing economic development strategy consulting at the highest levels. I tell everybody that you and Avalanche in that moment you were the most respected. You were the rising stars. You were the firm everybody wanted to work with, right?
Thanks,
I mean, the top of the heap, and there were some good ones in there, right? Top of the heap. And then you go to EY, you lead their practice. So now you've got this really big firm experience. It's like you have checked every box. And then you leave EY, you start this new tiny practice, and you come out with a book, not on economic development strategy, not on like future industry clusters, on trust.
On future industry.
Why?
Oh God, I've been asked that question a lot lately. Okay. Why this pivot? And actually it's not a pivot at all. It's like just the natural outcropping of the work that I've always done. But Rebecca, 30 years, you've also engaged with a lot of people, right? I estimate I've probably interacted with 20,000 or more people, right? If you think about every project you engage, like 200 or 300 people, you're in these rooms with them day after day after day. And I started realizing that the difference between places that do really well and the places that don't do that well is it boils down to the level of trust among their local leaders. And you can sense it when you go into the rooms with these leaders. I can tell if they get along, if they trust each other, if there's that camaraderie from the minute I walk into the room. And it's always been something I've wanted to express. But when you're hired to do a strategic plan, that's really not the nature of the conversation very often. Right. The nature of the conversation in the strategic planning processes, which I love to do. It's like my bread and butter. I freaking love doing that. I love leading those processes. But the nature is often, what are your strengths? What are your challenges? Who's doing what? What are our shared goals and so forth? And getting into kind of that, I'm not going to say psychology, but like what enables these people to actually work together, right, and get these huge initiatives done if they don't report to each other every day, they don't share staff, they don't share resources. What is that connection between them, and how do you strengthen it? Because I don't care how many resources you have, as you know, I just believe there's no way to get big initiatives and transformative work done in a community unless local leaders trust each other. Yeah. I had to say it. I just had to get it out. And I also had to just show people that this isn't it doesn't cost any money. I say it's courage over capital, but it's your most valuable differentiator, your most valuable competitive asset. So why not be more intentional about it?
I love it. I mean, I had noted that in the book too, in my highlighting and dog-earing of the book. Sweet. This idea that so many people say, well, what we need to get to the next level is money. We just need more money, more resources. And that might be something that's needed, but it is not the thing that's needed. And Amy, I wonder if you would I feel like the first sentence in the book, you just hit it over the fence and hooked all of us. So would you mind just reading the first paragraph of the introduction? You guys, it's only 2 sentences, but I know when you come to an author reading, you like to hear the author read. So hit it, girl.
Oh God, no pressure. Had to put on my readers for this one, everybody. All right. So the intro, the first 2 sentences: why do communities with similar assets experience very different outcomes? Why do some places thrive while others flatline, even if on paper they appear to be almost the same?
When I read that, I literally wrote next to it Jim Collins, because I feel like all of Jim Collins's work on like Good to Great and Built to Last, he takes these cohorts of organizations that look on paper exactly alike and then says, why did one of them kick the ass of everyone else? Totally. And in a way, that's what you're doing here, is you're saying, on paper, some are the same, some win, some lose. So that's the opening shot of the book. And of course, the answer is trust, right? Trust is this invisible infrastructure. And you did tons of interviews with people that I respect greatly. Some I knew, some I didn't know. But, what did you learn about trust as you researched the book?
Well, I went into it not knowing what to expect, right? This is just a premise. This is just something that's been rattling around in my brain for years, and I've been observing, but I've never really put pen to paper, right? So I decided I would I would interview people who I deeply admire. And like you said, you know, a lot of these individuals too. I consider them to be really strong leaders in some of the best performing communities in the country. And I wanted to make sure I interviewed people from a variety of communities also. So not just the big communities that are always in headline news, but, you know, rural communities, very urban communities, neighborhood level. I wanted to talk to people on the West Coast, on the East Coast, just kind of get this diversity of perspectives and just see where it went. So I ended up interviewing 31 leaders, and there are condensed transcripts of each one of my interviews with them in the book. They're each like 3 or 4 pages long. But what I found in those interviews was consistency in approaches that they're taking. First of all, they validated this premise. Like I asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, how does trust rank?
Yeah.
And most of them were way up there, like a 9 or a 10. So they were like, yeah, Amy, we feel that too. But also the consistency of their approaches and the intentionality of strengthening relationships was pervasive within all of the interviews. And I think I was surprised at the end to find, again, that their tactics are very similar. Like time and time again, they're just, whether you're in rural Kansas or you're in, you know, urban Chicago or Sonoma County, California, wherever you are, what they're doing is consistent. And it's also stuff that any leader could do.
Okay, we're going to get to the tactics, the 6 kind of big tactics. This is a note for everybody. Grab a piece of paper and a pencil. If you haven't already bought the book, you can write these down. We'll get to it in a second as well, but there's an assessment you can take online to see how you are in these different tactics and techniques underneath each of the tactics. I want to point out one other thing at sort of the macro level about this book, Amy, which is it's so optimistic. Like somewhere early on, you say, I want readers to know that there are good people doing good things every single day for their
Desperately
communities.
Need to know that, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So say more about that, because you could have written this whole book and never mentioned that. Why did you choose to? You didn't just say it once. You said it multiple times.
I feel like I repeated it over and over again. I desperately want people to know that. I want people to know what I've experienced throughout this career are these local leaders who aren't always in the spotlight, and the things that they do are so transformative to their communities. They're creating jobs for people. They're giving people educational and training opportunities. They're literally making their places better places. And I don't think that they get that attention. You know, if you're a local economic developer or community college president or chamber of commerce person, or, you know, all those people who I consider to be local leaders, Rebecca, they're not visible all the time. That's one. The second thing is, I think that as I was writing the book, so I started this book in 2024. Okay. As I've been writing it, the kind of feeling within the country has started going more and more negative, right? Yeah. This headline news is just full of stories of distrust and really bad behavior and negativity. Mm-hmm. And it hurts me. Does it hurt you? It hurts me to see that, especially when I know the good things are happening locally. Yep. And so much attention is focused on national politics nowadays. And I wish that the focus would go back on our local communities and how, you know, we're bridging divides in our local communities and making really good things happen. So you can see I get really passionate about it. It almost brings tears to my eyes to just think about all of the good things that are happening and how little attention they're getting today.
Oh, total mind meld with you. It's like, if you want to get depressed, listen to the national news. If you want to be cheered up, talk to the person in front of you at your local coffee shop about like what's lighting them up these days, you know? So you're so
Totally.
right. And the people who do what you've done for 30 years, which is build stronger communities, as you said, just the nature of the unsung heroes. So let's talk about these 31 interviewees as they're continuing. You're asking them on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is trust? And they're saying 9 and 10. And then you're asking them about sort of the anatomy of doing big things. And these 6 themes, trust tactics, you call them, seem to be coming through. Could you briefly tell us, like, what are these 6 things? And then maybe tell us a little bit about the trust strengths assessment that you've since developed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, after I interviewed those 31 leaders, I started to see some shared themes across everything that they're saying. And I shared these 6 trust tactics. I discussed them in good detail at the end of the book, but
Part 3,
let
you
me
guys,
just,
if you're following along at home.
yeah, right there. It's right at the end. It's in part 3,
Page 239.
but
Yep.
page 239. Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh, you're welcome.
The tactics are, can I just list them and then we'll kind of talk about
Sure.
each
Yeah,
one?
you can do whatever you want, Amy. You can do whatever you
Hey, I
want.
love that. Yeah. Look out, world. The first one is, these leaders I interview, they show up when they say they're going to show up and they follow through consistently. That might sound like a no-brainer, but if you think about it, if you're a local leader on the call today, think about how often people actually do what they say they're going to do, and what that feels like when they don't. Like, you're waiting for someone to send a follow-up email or something just so basic, but they don't do it. And I think every time that doesn't happen, it erodes trust. So the leaders that I interviewed provided all sorts of examples of how they show up. They show up with optimism. I'll say that too, Rebecca. Like, they come in as a positive kind of stabilizing force. And they also make sure that they always follow up with on their promises on time and in a meaningful way. Doesn't that sound simple? Like, couldn't anyone just?
It
what?
does.
Oh, God, you look like you're grimacing.
Well, because if I'm being really honest, this is something that I would give myself a poor mark for. I often will say I will follow up, but do I do it in a timely way? Do 15 other things end up superseding that on my to-do list? They absolutely do. So this was an area where I thought I do a good job, I think, showing up, but it's the following up part where I was like, room for improvement.
Well, I mean, I love being honest with ourselves, right? I mean, there are definitely things in here that I don't do all that well, or that I could, improve upon. The second one is that they regularly convene other leaders. And I thought it was funny. I talked to someone who read the book the other day, and they said the number one takeaway is just get people together in a meeting.
It's not hard.
It's not hard. But
I wrote down Harvey Schmidt right in the margin on this one. Harvey Schmidt, who was the CEO of the Raleigh Chamber for years and years. I mean, this was one of his big ideas, wasn't it? It was like, let's just get everybody together for lunch.
Totally. And he's one of my interviewees, right? Harvey Schmidt has a whole chapter, and I even quote him a couple of times on their approach. I mean, you're convening leaders on a regular basis, and you're creating a safe space for them to come together.
And you're not talking about like your board meeting. That is not what you're talking about.
No.
You're talking about something different.
Yeah. Local leaders. And when I say local leaders, maybe I should define that. I'm talking about people from the public sector, the private sector, education, your nonprofit leaders, people who have a role to play in shaping the future of your community. And they're people that you might not work with on a day-to-day basis. You might not even see them like once a week or once a month. But these leaders, and it was Harvey, and it was, Clark Duncan in Asheville, who and a number of others, Randy Thielen and At the Right Place in good old Grand Rapids. They will set a regular cadence of meetings. Christy Gillenwater, just all these, almost everyone had some version of this. But they set this regular cadence of meetings, and maybe it's once a month on the first Friday of the month, they have coffee with like 10 to 20 local leaders. And often there's always an agenda, but sometimes the agenda is just, let's share updates with each other and commune with each other. there's always a time also for people to vent some kind of frustration. So let's get that stuff out here in this safe space before it gets out kind of publicly or in like a council forum or wherever, kind of the, what hits the fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes their agendas are more specific, like there's an opportunity at hand and they know they've got to get like more of a task oriented agenda in place. But one way or another, those meetings happen, and they don't just happen for the purpose of a project. They happen for years.
This is what I love about this. My banker Jim, if you're watching, sometimes he catches it on the replay. He always says, you need your banking relationship before you run into trouble, right? The idea of like, buy the umbrella before it rains. And this feels exactly like that. It's like, know who your other peers are in your community before you need them, right? Like get to know them as people so that you can just build trust. I mean, that's
right.
What it's
Form
about,
relationships,
right?
friendships.
Exactly.
Someone said, you're not going to become best friends with everyone, but you need to have that relationship and that comfort level with communicating with each other.
Absolutely. To know who somebody is before you really have to talk to them. So tell us what number 3 is, Amy. The third.
Oh, 3. Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. Oh golly, I could talk about this forever, but all right. I'm going to keep going down the list. The third one is to proactively share information. I found that through the interviews, a major trust breaker is when someone has information to share and they don't.
And you said especially bad information, like not bad, but especially like
negative
critical
information. It's scary to say that stuff. I remember we led a strategy for the Baton Rouge area chamber, and Adam Knapp was the chamber president at the time, who is another trust builder who I interviewed. And we were doing our benchmarking assessment, which we always do, is just compare like the state of the community against others. And there was some bad news that was uncovered. And by the way, everyone has bad news in their competitive assessment. Like it's the nature, like no place is perfect. So, okay. Right. But that bad news was something that I don't think was common knowledge in the community. And Adam addressed it head on. He did not steer away from it, or, chambers are in the role of marketing their communities. So they usually want the news to be good, but he addressed it head on. He gathered a group of leaders in the community together to share the news with them and let them know that it was going to become a new chamber priority. And since then they've moved the needle, but I don't know. So often I feel like it's scary to share bad news, or you're worried about the repercussions. When in reality, that level of honesty is a huge trust builder if you can muster the courage to do it.
Yep, exactly. And it also, sharing information, especially challenging information, is another way of breaking down silos in communities, which most communities complain about that being an issue, that we all just work in our silos. Well, if I knew what was happening at your hospital, I could be a better advocate, for things when I know that what's happening in the community.
Totally. Yeah.
Amy, the fourth tactic is to find common ground. And I love the first tip in this section. Do you want to share what it is?
Is it, can we all just agree to ...
Yes.
Yes. Isn't that those are magical words.
They are.
It really, truly, because at the end of the day, I think you could take two conflicting parties in a community and realize that for the most part, there's some bad people out there too, but for the most part, people's hearts are in the right place. They're just not getting down to that, like the center of the Venn diagram where their shared motivation is, or like I call it kind of the least common denominator. Can't we all agree that we want our kids to have the best education possible? Can't we all agree that we want this to be a place that's healthy? Right. Fundamentally, what do we all agree to? And then start from there. But too often it's like a tactical argument, like, well, he wants to.
Right. The topic gets thrown out in the middle of like, hey, what should we do about this policy about XYZW? And everybody gives their unique, tiny little lens on it. So now you've got 15 opinions on it and you still don't have any common ground. So it's such a wise move to say, well, it sounds like we do all agree, that something needs to happen in this department. So what could we get behind? And so I love that. Tactic 6, or excuse me, let's not jump ahead. I'm a futurist, but I don't need to skip things.
Oh,
Number 5 is to give others the spotlight. This is so generous. Tell me more about this. Where did you see this show up among your interviews?
This also came out in a lot of the interviews. Kelly, I mean, the role of, I'm talking about chambers and economic development organizations a lot here, but there are other leadership organizations that I've interviewed in this book. And oftentimes the role of a community leader is to get a project underway and then give the spotlight to someone else. Like, for example, a local elected official. Let's just get back to like really basic stuff. Like there's a ribbon cutting and you know damn well that ED group or that chamber and all their community partners work for 2 years to get to that point. But it's the mayor and the governor that get the headline, right? They're the ones with the big scissors cutting. And I asked a lot of the interviewees about this because I think as kind of mature CEO level people, you recognize that. But if you've got a team of people that you're leading, you know, younger staff or people, that's gotta hurt. And how do you keep them motivated when they are the ones in the spotlight? And there's a number of different ways that they help ensure that they're celebrating their successes without expecting to be, you know, have their picture on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah,
like instilling, and I know Kim Lauterbach in Cincinnati said, we instill that type of community support in our organizational values. So when we win something, even if we're not the ones on stage, we can celebrate internally because we are living our values as an organization.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it as well. Well, the last tactic is one that like my team loves as futurists. And do you want to share what it is?
Yeah, the last one is this, I call it the future mindset, but golly, a lot of trust building for me is the willingness of local leaders to set aside their personal agendas for the good of the community, or like a generalized just kind of willingness to not be rewarded in the moment for something because they see that it's going to have a long-term reward. And you know, the ways that this plays out, according to the interviewees, is like they like to mentor others. So, you know, mentoring the younger generation. Another way very specifically that it plays out is a number of the interviewees said, I will forego a project opportunity today if I know that it's going to be a better play for our community long term. Wow. I even had a business person that I interviewed said, I will not, even though it costs me money, I will not advise a client to buy a piece of property if I don't think it's good for their business long term, because that would impact my reputation in the community and my ability to get stuff done later on. Yeah. So the willingness to forego, I think, short-term benefits for long-term is where that kind of comes together in the interviewees.
These tactics are wonderful. And did you know from the jump that you were going to create this trust strengths assessment, or did that come later? And tell people about it. Where can they find it and take it? It
came later, Rebecca. It's kind of my play. Like I've always been a big believer in like Strengths Finder and DISC assessments and things like that. I've always used those with my team. And I love how they kind of celebrate people's strengths. Duh. Yeah. So with the trust assessment, I found that the people that I interviewed, these local leaders all share similar personality traits. And there's really 8 traits that they all share. And you can read more about them in the book. This is like, they're really good at active listening, or they're authentic leaders, or they have a high level of empathy for others, or sometimes, especially with younger leaders, they're just really competent. Like they show up and they know their stuff, or they're transparent. So you can read about those different strengths in the book, but I decided why not kind of put the onus on the reader to think about their own strengths as a trust builder. What are they really good at? And then where could they improve? Because I think that we could all improve in some of these trust building strengths. So for example, my trust building strength, my top one is active listening, which is kind of perfect for who I am, because I do spend a lot of time listening to others and I want to make sure that I'm truly absorbing what they're saying and I'm not like thinking 30 steps ahead in what I'm going to say
Yeah.
to make me look
Yeah.
great. But there are other strengths as well. So Rebecca, I got really geeky, back to my band nerd geek out phase. I developed an online quiz that walks people through 30 or 32 different questions, and they answer yes, no, maybe. And then at the end, it shares what your top trust strength is. And I think it could be a cool tool for communities to use. Like if they want to get their board to have a conversation around trust building, they could take this assessment. It's totally free. And I swear there's no like salesy weird junk in it. It's just like, you can go
I took
online.
it and can attest to that. It's not salesy. It's not weird. You get your result, your top trust strength right away. Mine was integrity.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you what yours was. That makes perfect sense. That's a good one, Rebecca. That's a really good one.
How does this is kind of a nerd question, but like, how does the online assessment compare to, because you kind of also have a paper and pencil set of
It's the exact same.
Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, very good, very good. So if you prefer paper and pencil, I'm going to do both. Get the book. If you prefer to do it online, you can go to the Trust Builder book website and get it right there. Okay, Amy, we're going to dive into a few other things. So these are a little more self-serving for my audience who is thinking about the future and they're trying to like build futures, and it can be very lonely work. But I consider you writing this book on trust kind of a big move, kind of a brave move. Like I said, I don't think anybody was expecting you to say like, ta-da, here's a book about trust.
Culmination of 30 years of work.
Exactly. So what did you hope would happen? Like, what did you hope would happen?
Well, I hope that places start having really good dialogues around this topic of trust. First, recognize that this is a competitive asset.
Mm-hmm. If you have
recognize,
if you have trust, it's
if
a competitive asset.
but recognize if you don't, and that the difference it could make if you actually invested intentionally in building trust with each other and called out kind of bad behavior that happens in these communities. Because, good Lord, there's just, right? Maybe I just hope that people would stop behaving badly. Not that happens all the time, but sometimes it does. And I think you could look at a community where progress is stalled, and often it's an issue of trust among local leaders. And often that trust, Rebecca, comes down to two individuals in the community. I think that trust begins at the kind of the interpersonal level. Mm-hmm. And if it's good there, then you can kind of get this inter-organizational or institutional trust. And if it's good there, then you get a culture of trust, which you should be striving for, that culture of trust. But so often it's just a handful of individuals who just cannot get along. They won't even be in the same room together sometimes. So I think I kind of wanted to call it out and just say, you guys, as much investment as you're making in first strategic planning, please keep making those investments in strategic planning and believe in it. But also all the money that goes into infrastructure improvements and workforce development and just wrangling public policies and all of that stuff and all that time commitment to those things, but you're not investing in trust, which is like the bedrock of getting the optimum return on investment of all that other stuff that you're doing. I just had to say it.
You just had to get it out. So that's what I hoped would happen, was it had to be in the conversation as we're talking about, okay, that totally makes sense. But had you ever written a book before?
No.
Okay. No. I mean, a lot of people want to write a book. So I want to ask you, what went quietly wrong during this process?
Oh my God, where do I start? Well, first of all, I had never written a book before, but I have written, I mean, if I look at all the strategic plans I've written, I've probably written, thousands
You've written
of pages
many
of
books.
Stuff.
Exactly.
Like I've written, that's a lot of books. But when I started the process, I had a different kind of format in mind for this book. And I pursued it for about 6 months. And even I had an agent out of LA. We were shopping it around in like pretty big publishing houses. And I got a little bit of nibble on it. But the original concept was you're going to laugh. This sounds really stupid now that I'm thinking about it, but maybe it's round 2. It was more of a photography driven kind of coffee table book where I could go around the country with my favorite photographer and capture moments in these high performing communities and feature leaders in more of like beautiful editorial fashion. I wanted to tell the story of communities, and I wanted to do it through beautiful imagery. Back to kind of my creative band nerdiness. Like I love creative stuff like that. But there wasn't enough. First of all, it was going to be a very expensive endeavor. It cost a ton of money to do that. It was going to take me out of commission for strategic planning because I was going to be like a traveling road warrior, even more than I already am. And I just took a step back and I thought that project's not meant to be. Let me just start these interviews and see where it takes. Let me stop putting the cart before the horse. Let me get into the interviews and see what I hear.
Interesting. So would it be fair to say that the 31 folks who you went on to interview might have been some of the people you would have profiled?
Totally.
In your coffee table book?
Yeah. Wouldn't you love to see these people? Like,
yes,
photograph of them and their community, and like this. I know this is going to sound weird, but like the imagery that I love is like the way that like Garden and Gun and those kind of boutique kind of those magazines are shot. Even some cookbooks I was looking at, just like real, not headshots, but like
candids. Yep.
Candids. Yeah.
Listen, when I think you're the first person to ever mention Garden and Gun on my Futures Friday. So congratulations, Amy. Let me ask kind of a follow-on question. I've heard somebody say that like travel should change you. Like when you go to a different place or a different country, you should let that process change you. And I think when we make big moves, like you writing this book, we also need to let these things change us. So how did you have to be different? How did you have to change for this book to get born?
Oh, Rebecca, that's a hard one. I think I started seeing my role in this field a little differently through this process. I think I realized that I needed to focus more on leadership development than on, I'm not saying more or less, but I needed to incorporate a leadership angle to my work in addition to the strategic planning. And I also kind of reshaped the way that I work myself, and kind of my creative processes have shifted. And that's been really fun. Like, for example, sitting here in Charleston right now, my God, it's a beautiful day here. This is a beautiful city. I've always been inspired by it. I've done work here since the early 2000s. I knew that I needed to get away and focus instead of just like the way I normally work, which is just, I'm going to charge ahead as fast and as hard as I can. I'm never going to stop. I'm just going to go, 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 go. For me to take a break for 2 weeks and I brought my jam box, if that's still what you call those things. I brought my favorite playlists. I bought fresh flowers. I got my favorite sparkling water and teas, and I just
locked in.
I just let myself do that. And it was a true joy. It was one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, when we're doing these bigger things, these different things, we're making these moves that maybe are unusual for us. We like, I think in America, to think it's like the hero's journey, right? And there goes Amy with her sparkling water and her favorite teas and her jam box. But of course, we never walk alone. And so I wonder if you could share a story about somebody who came alongside you at the right moment, and what that moment was, and what that interaction taught you.
Yeah, there have been so many people who have influenced me along the way, but I'm just going to say what came top of mind when I thought about this question. When I was in college, I went to Baylor for undergrad, and then I stayed for graduate school. And my mom was sick with cancer. She ended up passing away like right after I got out of graduate school.
Oh,
and it was just a really very lonely experience, especially at that age, because other 22, 23-year-olds were not going through that. And I had a mentor, a professor at Baylor, who kind of adopted me. In fact, he gave me a scholarship to stay there for graduate school because they had a 1-year program, and it allowed me to stay in Texas instead of going out elsewhere to go to graduate school and still stay close to my mom. But a word of advice he gave me, and I think that carries through today, he said, never be the first person to speak. And always listen more than you speak. So that approach, and I think about how many people just are kind of like they're gunning to get out of the starting gate. They've got a bazillion things they want to say, and they'll just kind of motor mouth. There's a role. I mean, there's a role for that, right? And I feel like that's the style of leadership that a lot of people gravitate towards, because that's what you see maybe in the movie, or maybe that's what the people that you've watched growing up do. They're the ones who are on stage, and they're the ones telling all the information, and they're the ones who lead the meetings and everything. And I think from the get-go, from him, his name was Bob Jones, and I would watch him in meetings and see how he would listen intently to what people were saying. And then when he did speak, it was something that was very constructive and guiding, and kind of often brought people together versus just shouting out your own opinion.
I love it. I love it. Oh, here's to Bob Jones.
Yeah, here's to Bob Jones.
Okay, I've got one last question. Audience, if you guys have some questions for Amy, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. I actually should have cued you on that a question or so ago. Go ahead and get your questions in the chat. But Amy, as you know, I'm very interested in this idea of fearlessness. And through my Zen training, we say that one of the marks of a sophisticated Zen practitioner, somebody who really embodies Zen, is their ability to remove fear. And when I think of the word fearless, you can read it all together, fearless, and you might think, oh, no fear, just complete courage. But I see it as 2 words, just fearless. Like, I don't know if I ever have complete courage. In some cases, maybe, but mostly I just need to fear less, fear a little bit less. So for our audience, these are people who want to make change. These are people who, it can be very lonely if they don't have their tribe of trusted people around them. I wonder if you have a tip at this point in your career about how to fear less, something that you've learned that you carry with you that you would want to share with this group.
One of the best things I did for my career early on was I took improv classes.
Oh.
And I
wow.
Speaking of fear less, one of the rules of improv is dare to fail. Dare to fail. And I realized through that experience how funny it can be when you fail and you admit to it. In fact, if you've ever watched improv, some of it's super annoying. So I'm not saying like, ever, this is the best, but it's so good. The principles of it are so good. When you fail in improv and a scene just goes to shit, you're supposed to go, I failed. And you just throw your hands up in the air and you go, I failed. And it works magic. I fail. I think that in my head. I'm not standing in front of an audience being like, I failed. Did you see that? Like everybody looking. But I think it like I failed. And that was a real moment. And I'm not going to try to like backtrack over it or try to correct what just happened. I'm just going to kind of give it a nod and keep moving forward. And I think that like dare to fail, just dare to fail. That's
dare to fail. Oh, really I love it.
Lesson in life.
Oh, that's great parting advice. So listen, you guys, you get to see just a little bit of the magic of Amy Holloway. She's an amazing consultant. She's a keynoter. Now she's a best-selling author on Amazon. I have recommended trust builders to nearly anybody about whom the conversation of community trust comes through. If I perceive that they're in a situation where they might need a little bit more trust or trust has been broken, I think just having you and maybe your leaders, if you're in that kind of an environment, just think about these 6 traits and these, different characteristics and where am I great? Where could I shore up? It's been instructive for me. I'm taking this advice myself. I want to be a more trustworthy person. Amy, we cannot thank you enough. Continued success with the book. I put the link where you can buy it and learn more about it. Hire Amy to come and speak to your trust builders in your community. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Rebecca. This was so fun, as always.
Your mom would be so proud.
Oh, thank you. You're going to make me cry.
I don't mean to, but man, I could feel her here. And she's proud, girl. She is proud.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. You guys take care. Happy Friday.
Bye.
Bye.